producing a harvest. Once cleared, he plows and tills the ground in preparation for the planting of his seed. Once the field is planted, he labors to maintain the ideal conditions for his plantings to flourish by fertilizing, weeding, and watering his seed. The plants emerge and his labor continues as he protects the field from pestilence and damage. Then a few weeks prior to harvest, he is weary and he gives up. All is for naught as he loses his entire crop because of his latter neglect. Or perhaps a storm threatened. He saw warnings, but neglected to respond. And the mistake cost him the ingathering. What a waste of time, money, labor, and resources only to falter at the moment of realization. What about a businessman who labors to build his company for years only to lose it in the end because of a few bad decisions? Again, tragic. In both cases, the benefits of the extensive labor are lost in a moment through wrong choices. That's why Scripture repeatedly encourages us to finish well. He who endures to the end, Matthew 10, verse 22, 24, verse 13, Mark 13, verse 13. Again, we have become partakers of Christ if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast to the end. Hebrews 3, verse 14. And again, he who overcomes and keeps my word until the end. Revelation 2, verse 26. And the list continues. Christianity is not a sprint, but it's an endurance run. Therefore, it's not how we start the race that counts, but how we complete it. How we finish is determined by the choices we make, and those are often performed by patterns we develop along the way. Life-defining moments. There was an incident with one of our sons. He wanted to do something I wasn't in favor of. He knew where I stood, yet I felt he was old enough to make the call, so the final decision was his. Time passed, and I found out he chose to go against my counsel. Later, we sat down to discuss his choice. I explained, the choice was up to you, but I want to take this opportunity to teach you from this. Listen to this true story. There was a young king named Rehoboam. Shortly after he began his reign, a question arose from his subjects. Your father made our lives rough from the demands he placed upon us. Would you please lighten the load, and we will happily serve you? The young king instructed the people to return in a few days to hear his decision. His father's counselors told him, if you will be a servant to this people, be considerate of their needs, and respond with compassion, work things out with them, they'll end up doing anything for you. 1 Kings 12, verse 7. It was good and wise counsel, but the young king rejected their advice and went to his peers. They said, these people who complain, your father was too hard on us, lighten up. Well, tell them this. My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. If you think life under my father was hard, you haven't seen the half of it. My father thrashed you with whips, I'll beat you bloody with chains. Verse 10 and 11. The young king, Rehoboam, heeded his friend's advice with some tragic results. The kingdom that his father Solomon built was torn, and 10 out of the 12 tribes of Israel were permanently fragmented as 5/6 of the kingdom was torn from his iron fist. One bad choice cost him dearly for the rest of his life. I then told my son, let's go back. Perhaps for years, Prince Rehoboam and his friends privately mocked and even spurned the counsel of his father, Solomon, or his elders. Maybe they snickered over goblets of wine and shook their heads in the secrecy of the royal chambers at what they presumed to be foolish and old-fashioned advice. Vain thoughts may have cluttered Rehoboam's head. I will keep my peace while I am yet prince, but when I become king, I will not listen to these silly old men. As a prince, his decisions to ignore and lightly esteem his elders' wisdom cost him very little. He did not realize the die had been set, and one day he would be foolish while thinking himself wise. When his life-defining moment arose, he lacked the pattern necessary to execute sound judgment. I continued, we all have life-defining moments. They are like open book tests, but we don't know we have been examined until it's over. Son, you decided not to heed my counsel at this time. It cost you nothing. But the day will come when a life-defining moment arises.